Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am Brendan, and this is Life Through Leaves. I'm excited to be back to record some new stuff for you guys. Hopefully, you can hear me a little bit better about a microphone. Couldn't really stand my last audio very much. It kind of drove me crazy because I'm recording on a phone still. The video is pretty decent, I think, at least, because I don't know, these new phones are crazy good. So, doing a book haul today, and these are basically just the books that I've bought over the past month. I haven't been doing too much reading, and that's why I haven't done any kind of review or anything like that. I've kind of in a little bit of a slump, but I'm getting back into it. And so I just kind of wanted to get a video out there, and I have some books to show off again. So here we are. So this is going to be mostly history with one with one sociology book. And we'll start with the sociology book right now. All right, so the first book is The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism and Other Writings by Max Weber. He's a German sociologist. He's one of the founding fathers of sociology, really. His stuff is cited all the time, even still today. This book was written in 1904, and it was translated into English in 1930, so there's a couple decades there where it wasn't even in English. Basically, what Max is trying to do here, from what I've gathered, is he's trying to show kind of the development of Western countries. And what I like about this idea is it's not exactly Marxist. I think Marxist takes are interesting, but you just see a lot of capitalist critiques or just descriptions of capitalism from the Marxist lens. And this doesn't take that lens. It's Weberian, which is his own like ideology. But yeah, he's one of the foundation people of sociology. Let's see here. It's basically he makes the case that the ethic comes from Protestantism, which started from the Reformation back in the 1500s with Martin Luther. In the early 1500s, and basically the Catholic Church has the church. And so when there was the Reformation with the Protestants, the work ethic came from the Protestants being devotional to the text, sola scriptura. I probably butchered that, but that's the Protestant saying is scripture only, or scripture above all, and not the church above all. And so a lot of that ethic came from that, from what I gathered. I haven't read this, obviously. I just bought it. And it was a used haul. I'm pretty excited about that. But that ethic turned into basically not profit, but wealth over everything. The wealth turned into it didn't turn into a means to an end anymore. It went from a means to an end, like accumulating wealth to gain food or shelter or anything like that, but it became an end in itself. And that's kind of what he's showing here. And this is really what developed the Western world. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked to check this out. All right, that's our only sociology. The rest is history, as they say. But just here, it's history. Okay. So this next one is very interesting, like so interesting that I ended up reading about like 10 to 15 pages of it while I was doing research for this video. And this one is Last Witnesses, an oral history of the children of World War II. It won a Nobel Prize, and it's by Svetlana Alexievich. And I mean, it's what it says on the cover. It's Alexievich going around and interviewing World War II World War II survivors from Russia. There may be Holocaust survivors. I'm not entirely sure, but the back says it's Russian survivors. And it's just, what's really interesting about this is when I was opening it and looking into it, it's just a bunch of stories that are like a page or two long. And so it's just really cool because there's hundreds of stories in here of what key memories were from these children. It says, for example, Natasha Golik 5 years old, now a proofreader. So she shows that these are what their professions are now, if they're retired or what they're working. And yeah, it's pretty hard to read at times, for sure, obviously. These are survivors from a war. But man, is this interesting. I almost want to just keep reading this after I am done recording. God, yeah, it's really interesting, and I'm excited to read this one. So yeah, there's that one. All right. By the way, fair warning. I would say most of these books are pretty bleak. They're pretty much war and massacre and stuff like that. Other than the last one, but even the last one it's hopeful, but it's like a pessimistic scenario. Well, you'll see if you stick around. But the next one is The Bridge at No Gun Ri, A Hidden Nightmare from the Korean War. And this is by Charles Hanley, Sang-Hun Choe, and Martha Mendoza. And this is also a Pulitzer winner. This one's basically about the bridge at No Gun Ri, but it's during the Korean. It's basically when the Cold War was basically getting kicked off. It was when the division happened between North and South Korea, which is really, proxy for the Russians and the United States. But basically, this is a massacre. It's a massacre by the U.S. troops on Korean refugees. And like I said, it's pretty dark. It happened in 1950. And basically what was happening was the U.S. commanders were afraid of infiltration during this skirmish between the North and the South. They didn't want North Koreans flooding in. And so basically what they did was over 3 days, they massacred columns and columns of South Korean refugees. They say between 250 and 400 refugees. It's bleak, but a lot of it was covered up for a while. And this came out in 2001. It came out on September 6th, 2001. So 5 days before 9/11. And so this book really got pushed under the catastrophe that was 9/11, justifiably so, obviously, in America. So it didn't really get too much press time or anything like that. And yeah, it's another dark read. I'm excited to read it just because it's journalism that was uncovering a lot of stuff that was covered up by the American military and a lot of that type of stuff, along those lines. So there's that. The Bridge at No Gun Ri. All right. The next one is going back to Russia. This one is called The Lysenko Affair by David Joravsky. And this one came out in 1986. And basically this is the rise and fall of a politician in the USSR named Lysenko. And he is basically a pseudoscientist, and he was a pseudoscientist in Russia who pretty much came into prominence under Stalin's wing through propaganda, through political weaving. And what is so interesting about this book to me and why I picked it up was because it's just really important, I think, to see how truth isn't always at the forefront of our daily lives. And, I think a lot of us know that, especially with politics. And I'm not going to get into politics here, even though this is inherently a political book. It's more about the history of Lysenko. Anyways, I digress. What he did was he went in and denounced Mendelian genetics, saying it was bourgeois. And obviously that got his ears perked up. And so just by doing that, he created his own, I think it's called agronomy. You might have to check that on me, but basically his own version of dealing with crops and how crops deal with environment. And he basically said that if you subject these crops to cold weather, then they'll adapt to it, which didn't happen. The famine continued. A lot of people died because of it. And it really is just a cautionary tale to go to show that not everyone in power knows what they're talking about. So that happens everywhere. It's not just this guy. But yeah, that's the Lysenko affair. I don't have too much more details on it. Other than, yeah, just check it out if you're interested in those topics. All right, and the last one I picked up, this is a recent one, came out last year, 2024. To the Success of Our Hopeless Cause, The Many Lives of the Soviet Dissident Movement by Benjamin Nathans. Also a winner of the Pulitzer. It just recently won it. And that really piqued my interest. This one's by Princeton Press, by the way. I didn't really mention these other ones. I apologize. So I'll leave them in the description. But Princeton, I like to give shout outs to. I really like their stuff. They have a lot of interesting books. Anyways, this one is about the Soviets the Soviet citizens who were, they were dissenting against the government, and basically they're going around. They were protesting against unjust intellectual arrests. They were they were circulating banned texts throughout the public, and obviously the USSR, they didn't like that, and so there were quite a lot of martyrs in this scenario from what I was reading on. One of them was what's his name? I have some of his books here. It's Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He did the Gulag Archipelago. I haven't read those yet, but he's like one of the famous figures that ended up getting out and writing about it. But yeah, this one is a narrative history, and yeah, once again, it's important to read about dissent in authoritarian regimes. It's just, it's a cautionary thing. And I think a lot of history is cautionary. I think we could always learn from history. That's kind of, for me, that's some of the point. I enjoy reading it, but I like to know about what happened and just try to learn from them as an individual as best I can to see what I can do. But yeah, this one looks really good to me. There's a description on the Princeton Press site that I really wanted to read because I thought it was so interesting. It said, it illuminates other struggles between hopelessness and perseverance today. Yeah, there's the spot between hopelessness and perseverance is, I think we could all relate to that a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much it for my hauls for the month. I don't know if I'll get to any of these. I cracked open, like I said, the Last Witnesses. Sorry, was that the name of it? Yeah, Last Witnesses. So I might get around to that, but just wanted to show you guys what I bought this month. And I hope the audio is okay. I was going crazy watching my last videos. It was so quiet. I felt like I was in like an echo room or something like that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching if you watch this, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the month and stay warm. All right.